Yeah, especially at a track like Canadian Motorsport, it's difficult to pass. It's very fast, and mistakes are punished pretty heavily. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I mean, really, turn one, sometimes turn three, and then the sort of the end complex 6, 7, and 8 are the most likely passing zones, but there isn't like a really good passing zone on this track. But we're about to see how they handle this first lap.
Green flag, green flag.
Yep. Looks like no issues at the beginning of the race, which is good. And yeah, the three of them have just taken off. Absolutely. And there's actually the gap has lowered a little bit, but the 7 cars are pretty much in a line coming through the first entering the second sector of this track. Yep, I think so too. And our first turn 5, which is by far the most difficult and tricky turn on the grid, everybody made it through safely. And they're going to head down the long straight. Yep, and yeah, Lewis continues to lead the pack. Looks like everything is almost as it qualified. As Lewis finishes his first lap and heads into turn 1. Yeah, just a tiny look to the inside there. He's going to do it again on turn 2, and he is getting close. He's definitely going to put Lewis under a lot of pressure. Behind him, we have Carter, Angelo, Michael, Jake, and the scientist, Colby. Absolutely, that is his favorite type of track. And again, into 5, huge elevation changes, a blind right-hander, and they all make it through, but looks like Josh got a good exit. Yeah, so turn 5, the exit is extremely important because it follows a long straight and it's such a difficult turn. So if you get a bad exit, you can lose anywhere from like a half a second to a second. So it's going to be really important to see how these guys get out of the turn 5. Yeah. Everybody through turn 1. We do have some guys in the pit, so we might have had a crash in the back. Yep, that is flat out and very easy to lose. Yeah, looks like Douglas had to tow, and as did Chris. So what we had was a collision between Chris Kohler and Douglas on the straight, heading into turn 1. So Douglas actually went over to the left to take turn 1 and didn't know Chris was there and took a pretty big whack into the wall. I guess we have Dylan Caldwell with a meatball. I'm curious where that happened. Came out of turn 2. just went straight on. He actually followed Eric Faust off the track. Oops. So, you know, this is a tough track. There's no shame in going off here. I think anybody who has raced the track knows how easy it is to get a meatball here. It's high speed. There's grass and there are walls. Yep. That's what makes tracks like this so exciting. I do want to return back to the front. Lewis has, you know, pulled almost a second of a gap to Josh, but then Josh is taking this turn. Uh-oh. They both spun out, actually. It's really easy when you're racing to just follow people, and they both actually spun out, and then they hit each other. They spun out on their own in the middle of turn 5. Again, that is a blind corner. It is very, very easy to either take too much speed through and hit the dirt, and that's what happened there, and they both unfortunately spun. They are back on the racing. Absolutely. Keep your eyes up and looking ahead, as Ross Bentley would say. I'm assuming that's Ross Bentley, the patron saint of racing. So these 3 cars are still neck and neck up at the top. Angelo is about a second behind them, and then we have about a 6-second gap back to the scientist, who is sitting in 5th. Yeah, he's doing very, very well here. This is his kind of track. There's the, go ahead. It is. They're all good at different parts of the track. It seems like Josh has been really good at turn 5, but then Lewis will pull away in the last complex of the track into turn 1. So it has been a processional battle, but a battle nonetheless. And it also looks like it's only my voice that's coming through, so hi everybody. But we do have a pass with Carter coming along the outside, so Lewis drops down to 3rd. He had an issue with turn 4, and Carter takes the lead. Or sorry, Josh takes the lead, Carter in 2nd and Lewis in 3rd. So these mistakes are costly. Carter is now trying to pass on the inside of turn 6. Will he make it stick? He is almost fully ahead and makes it stick. He's going to get on the inside for turn 7. Oh, they're getting so close, and they make it through. Very, very nicely done by Carter to take the lead there. This is anybody's race between the top 3. Again, these 3 guys moving into turn 2. It's now his turn to try to build a little bit of a gap to Josh and Lewis. Josh getting a much better entry or exit out of 2 into 3, very, very close behind. Turn 5 is everything here. We're going to see how they take it. It's very easy to understeer going into turn 5 and end up on the wrong side, on the right side when you have to make a right-hand turn. But all 3 of them nail it this time around. And let's see who gets the good exit. Carter gets an excellent exit, and now Lewis is right on Josh's tail. thinking about going for the pass. They're going to go side by side down the straight, but there's not a lot of room. Will Lewis be able to make it stick there? Oh, they're driving so close to each other. Going into turn 6. He does make it stick, and there it is. That is just a perfect example of how the exit of turn 5 is key. And Lewis takes second place back, and he's going to look for first. Carter very nicely through 1. This is the most separated we've seen these drivers so far. All 3 of them. So looks like Josh had some issues on that turn, so he's going to fall a little bit further back. But turns 4 and 5 here are the question that is posed to every driver and every lap. How will you take this? And Josh goes wide, and that's going to put him right next to Angelo even. And now it is a 2-car race now between Carter and Lewis. I mean, it's really tough to overstate how difficult that corner is. It is. It takes a lot of practice, and even it's hard to get right every single time. So now Josh under pressure from Angelo, Carter under pressure from Lewis. Coming around the final corner. So Lewis did have a better exit last lap. Let's see if he gets it this lap. Very quick. Wow, what a turn 1 from Carter. He's going to take a half-second lead going into turn 2. Behind him, Josh King is starting to build a gap to Angelo. And then behind them, we have about a 10-second gap to the scientist, who is still sitting in fifth place, which is his highest running order of his CTD career, as the leaders head down into 4, and will they take 5? Oh. Lewis was quicker through there, but he can't drive through Carter, so he had to check up a little bit. And that's going to leave Carter safe on this back straight here.
All right, after some technical difficulties, I believe I am back.
Are you back? That is the question.
With you being able to hear me, I'm hopeful.
Alrighty. Yep, we are good. As Carter goes ahead, he is still a couple tenths in front of Lewis. Josh has a lot of work to do to get back up to the leaders, but he did just put in a personal best 123.297. So he's probably settled down after his mistake into 5 and is going to try to get in Lewis's draft. Carter's first half of this lap, Aaron, has been excellent pretty much every single time.
Yeah, he's doing everything he needs to not only get the lap time out of the car, but get the advantage on the exits too. He's making it so difficult for Lewis to gain any ground or even potentially send a move.
Yeah. And his trips through 5 have been just good enough to keep Lewis behind him.
Josh just barely hanging on to that draft.
Yes.
With that previous personal best, that was faster than our 2 leaders here.
Yeah. We have approximately 4 or 5 laps to go. So we're going to see how this shakes out, as Lewis is very close to Carter. But Carter nails the exit of the last turn, and now is going to head into 1.
Carter looking a little defensive there.
He is, and Josh has almost caught up. He is 6 tenths behind Lewis, so he has made up the place. He just put in a 122.7. which was 7/10 quicker than the lap our leaders just put in. So he is flying. So he is absolutely not out of this yet.
Yeah, that is a man on a mission if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, that is a quick lap. Into the all-important turn 5.
Definitely some different techniques from these guys as well. Noticed a little bit of brake light flicker there from our leader, where our P2 and P3 are just kind of coasting on through there. They're looking a little bit more planted, maybe getting that rotation a little earlier.
Yeah, I would imagine just generally, it might be easier to drive behind somebody than it is to just go in and clean air. But Lewis has been making up his time in the back half of this this lap, and then we go into the first half of the next lap, and Carter is able to build just enough of a gap. These guys are quick. Each of them putting in low 123s, all within a tenth of each other.
Ooh, and an off from Carter.
Oh, there it is. This is a tough lap, and that's going to put him under direct pressure from Josh as they go into turn 4.
And Josh going a little bit wide as well. These guys are cracking. They're cracking under that bit of pressure.
The nerves are getting to them, and Lewis takes back the lead. How will they take 5? And there it is. Carter goes off on 5, and that's going to put them side by side. Carter's able to finagle a good exit from him, but that is going to put Lewis in a very comfortable position with the two guys behind him starting to fight with each other.
Not only that, both of those drivers are outside of the draft range as well. It's going to be really hard to start clawing back those times, or I should say that gap, without just punching 22s lap after lap till the end of this race.
Right, which they're capable of. But the pressure's on. Carter and Josh. Lewis can probably finally breathe a little bit.
Door to door.
Side by side.
Josh with the better line on the inside. Carter holding on to it. These guys are putting quite the show on.
Yep, that was a great move. Looks like Carter is very aggressively going to try to take this position back. But if he's not careful, he's going to end up with another off track.
Yeah, you can see he's pushing like hell, and the car is pushing off track, unfortunately, too.
Yep, and that has allowed Lewis to create a 2-second gap to them, which on a track like this is difficult to make up.
Well said. With 2:20 to go, that's going to be a tough one to close that gap on without any mistakes from our front runner.
Yep, across the line, there will be 2 laps to go. And that is an almost insurmountable gap unless Lewis makes a mistake. Meanwhile, in our fight for second, Josh has now built a gap to Carter. And that gap has now increased to a second. The other thing that happens too is when they push so hard, their tires get hot. And the Porsche does not give you tire temperatures, so it's anybody's guess how hot those tires are. So, you know, part of the reason that they're making mistakes, it's not only the nerves, but then it's also the fact that their tire temps are hot, and they're pushing, and that's leading to more like off tracks or just otherwise crappier exits.
Yeah, very true.
Into the all-important 5 for our top 3. Very clean from Lewis. All 3 of them. With white flag coming up, I'd be surprised if this order changes.
Carter only 0.8 off from Josh. Things might get interesting on this last lap.
we'll see. He needs to start making up that gap now. So whatever pace he has left, he needs to start employing it.
In the meantime, it looks like we might have a battle for P5 between the scientist and Jake Austin.
Yeah,
Jake's
with
been...
Howard in the middle.
Yeah.
Sorry, the white flag has waved for our first race. That is Louis Sampino with a 2.5 lead over Josh King, who has about 7/10 to Carter Price.
We'll check in for a battle with P5 here while those guys kind of settle into this last lap.
Yeah, there is a lot of separation now between the top three.
Howard getting out of the way there for Jake Austin. Jake on the attack, looking for that P5 spot.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if we'll get it as our leaders head onto the back straight. 3 more corners now for Lewis to win his first CTD race. I believe it's his first.
I believe you're correct. He's generally at the top, but I think this will be his first win.
Yeah, well, Carter and Josh have been monopolizing the top of the podium, so we've got 2 corners left, a 1.5 gap.
Lewis rounding the final corner. Nice and
there
calm.
it is. That is a victory for Louis Sampaio. Sorry, did I say Sampino?
I think you did.
Very well done by Louis. He was qualified on pole position, made a mistake, dropped all the way back to third, was able to fight back and take advantage of more mistakes. And now let's go take a look at the scientist and Jake Austin. Have they finished their race?
The scientist coming across the line in P5 and immediately dumping the car into the tire barrier right after.
He's just doing an experiment.
Right.
You know, just a science project.
And we had another car go off on the start-finish straight. That's James in the number 14 car.
Taking out some frustration. I think you could do that in real life. More drivers would do it. Just sort of like a band will wreck their instruments during the final flurry of music.
Douglas and Eric coming across the line to finish 11th and 9th respectively. And that's going to conclude our race 1.
It is. We have an 11% chance of rain for race 2. We'll see if it comes. Otherwise, yeah, we will see you in approximately 20 minutes.
Sounds good. We'll see everybody then. race 2 brewing up. We've got Carter Price on pole, followed by Josh and then Howard, Jake, and Michael rounding out our top 5.
Yeah, very different qualifying experience. Lewis, who won our last race, down in 7th.
Yeah, definitely a very unexpected result from him. I figured we'd at least see him in the top 3 still, maybe, in a different spot from pole, but a P7 is a bit of a shock there.
It is. But happens to everybody. Sometimes you just like don't get that good lap, or especially in open qualifying, you just like don't get enough space. Uh, happens frequently. We'll see. It will be interesting to watch him move his way through the field if he is able to get back up to speed.
Absolutely. Something to be said, though. Our top 10 is only separated by 1.4 seconds, opposed from, I think, 2+ seconds during race 1. So the field looks a little bit different, but it's also much, much tighter.
Absolutely. It's going to be a competitive race. We have 15 seconds before the formation lap begins.
I'm afraid to give anybody the commentator's curse, but I have to ask. Do you have any favorites coming into this race?
I think, I think Carter and Josh are probably the 2 biggest favorites, but I would give the edge to Josh.
Fair enough.
Josh is right on the verge of graduation and entering the pro class. And it seems all but an inevitability at this point. Same with James. They are both very, very close.
Yeah, most definitely. It's not an if, just a when. How many days do we have to wait?
Yeah, we'll see how this week and next week goes. We are skipping next week, which is Donington Park. But then we will be back with Magello. So next week will be a little bit open season. Who can learn tracks and apply what they've learned in a less structured environment.
Yeah, it'll definitely be very interesting to see. A lot of these guys have definitely learned a lot of adaptability. I know a lot of our grid has been focusing a lot on telemetry so far this season, so I think they definitely have the tools to figure next week out on their own.
Studious. These guys do their homework.
We do have a car change for race 2. I think James had some issues with his Porsche, so he brought his backup BMW for this one.
Just didn't want to be like everybody else, I guess. There's always a few that are like, I don't like being in the Porsche, but everyone else is in it. Howard infamously chooses a random car for every split. This time he rolled the normie Porsche.
What are the odds?
1 in 5, actually.
True.
Alrighty, we are safety car leading them through the last sector, these last 3 turns, and then we will see how this first lap goes. Cold tires, difficult track. Will they make it?
Little cooler track temps this go around.
We are off.
Green, green, green.
Very nice start from Carter. Howard actually getting side by side with Josh, but then backs out before turn 1.
Josh is definitely going to keep the pressure up here. Both of these guys are rapid on cold tires too.
Yes. And they have a very friendly rivalry, but they do both want to beat each other. As the cars head through turn 3 and then into the all-important turn 4 and turn 5 as Josh gets alongside Carter. But Carter will have the inside, but nope, Josh takes the inside. But Carter will maintain the position.
Putting the pressure on early.
Yes. excellent turn 5 from Carter, though, and he is going to go ahead and open up a small lead.
These guys need to be careful too. Howard is not somebody to just shrug off. He has lots of pace and definitely lots of racecraft. He's going to be, as our pro, definitely putting the pressure on those two.
Absolutely. Top 6 all in the line. Lewis bringing up the rear of this opening pack. And we should see him put some moves on in these next coming laps.
He is up a position on that opening lap as well.
Our first lap of the race ends as the drivers head into turn 1.
Ooh, Josh a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1.
Oh! And that was that was Michael spinning out on turn 1. On the exit.
Ooh, and we have some more contact. That takes out Jake and I believe Howard in turn 3 there.
Oh no.
And not
Howard losing it on the exit of turn 3 and just absolutely spinning it into the wall, and Jake had nowhere to go. Very unfortunate.
That's definitely a shame to hear.
This track, it's punishing. We just saw 2 drivers lose it on the exits of these turns.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. The line of over the limit is a very, very thin one.
Yes, and that enables Lewis to make up at least 2 places. He's now up to 3rd, and he will be trying to close the 3-second gap to the leaders as Carter and Josh head into turn 1.
And by lap 2, we actually have our race 1 grid for our race 2. Carter, Josh, Lewis, and followed by Angelo. Chris with a surprise into P5.
Yep, very nicely done by him. Carter with an excellent turn 3, heading into the crucial turn 4 and turn 5. Both of them getting the necessary rotation into 4. But Carter with a much better turn 5.
Yeah, the exit there really makes or breaks this lap time.
Yep, and it's one of those corners where if you don't get the entry right, you also don't get the exit.
Yeah, very true.
Our leaders into turn 6. Very nicely done. Carter with a half-second lead over Josh, coming into lap 4.
And what looks like a new fastest lap of the race with a 23.2 from Carter Price.
Yep, tires warming up, they're getting more comfortable. You should see these lap times come down a little bit more.
Yeah, race to the 22-second lap time is on its way, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, Josh put in an incredible 22.7 last race. Let's see if he's capable of it again, and he will need to be. Right now, Carter is driving very, very well at the front of the pack.
Yeah, that car's looking nice and planted, nice and smooth. Not any wiggles on any of the exits. It's overall looking very planted.
They are a little bit closer down the straight, though. Josh sitting in Carter's draft, catching him little by little.
Carter going defensive.
Smart. Oh, Josh is catching Carter. This is going to be an interesting first couple turns. Will Josh make a move onto the inside of turn 1?
Looks like he's gonna stay nice and patient through here. Just taking the long game, really making sure that when he goes for that move, it's gonna stick.
Yeah, and Carter going a little bit off track. You know, it's tough to drive under this kind of pressure.
It's going to be very important for these guys not to tussle too much either. With Lewis and Angelo just 3 seconds behind, these guys are close enough to still capitalize on any mistakes or any long-term battling between these two.
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis hasn't been able to make good progress. The gap is about the same as it was before, and he's also got Angelo about a second behind him, but running very similar lap times. Carter down the straight, opening up a half-second lead again. We've seen Josh be better through this complex, though, so let's see if Josh is able to close the gap. Beautiful through those turns for both of them.
Yeah, no change in that gap. Looks like they might have been a little bit faster or a little bit slower than each other, depending on the corner, but otherwise still about 6/10.
They are doing great.
Looks like our battle for P3 is starting to heat up a little bit. Angelo closing that gap ever so slightly.
Yeah, Lewis can't shake him. This is very impressive by Angelo. Lewis did win our first race, so the fact that Angelo is keeping pace with him and not letting him drive off into the distance is very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely true. I think this might be, at least for this week, a personal running best for Angelo as well.
Wouldn't surprise me. And not surprise me one bit. So we have Carter and Josh navigating the final sector of the track and coming to the start-finish line. Heading into lap 7, and the gap remains about a half-second.
Now, with 11.5 minutes to go, will either one of these guys crack?
Yeah, there were plenty of cracks last race. There are no guarantees on a track like this. Carter opening up a much bigger lead. He had a much better first half of this lap heading into turn 5.
With a second gap between these two, it looks like we've got another battle starting to brew for P6 between the Scientist and Eric Faust.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that should be some really good racing.
Yeah, these two are great friends. Definitely both very respectful to each other.
Right now, it is the Scientist in the lead of that particular battle.
Trying to break the draft. It looks like both of these guys have damage on their front bumpers as well.
They were in a little bit of a wreck beforehand then. And the Scientist navigating turn 7. So it's a little wide through, now into 8. And Eric has just about caught up with him.
Yeah, just a half second between these two.
Yeah. Eric, by the way, is running the original CTD livery.
An OG, they might say.
Was, yes. Yeah, things still looking about the same. Carter maintaining a 1 second gap over Josh. Lewis maintaining a 1 second gap over Angelo. Now we've got the scientists and Eric Faust, and they are about a half second to a second away from each other. Leaves are hard to come by on this track, but mistakes are quite often to come by. So, easy to come by even, a person who knows English might say.
Eric Faust really closing that gap through turn 5. He's down to 3/10 behind the scientist coming through turn 7, headed into T8.
Yeah, he's coming right up to his outside.
Oh, and a little bit of contact. Both of those guys hold on to it.
Yep. Oh, Eric. Either just driving into him. It's hard to say. It's really hard to know what the car in front of you is going to do. A little bit of love taps. But that unfortunately did slow Eric down, so now he has another half second to make up again. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, the gap has lowered to about a half a second. They were very close going through 5.
Yeah, Josh in a little bit stronger slipstream coming down this back straight.
Yep. Meanwhile, Lewis has finally broken free of Angelo and is now just running his race, but he is 4.5 seconds behind Josh. So, if nothing happens to either of these two leaders, this looks like a 2-horse race.
Both of these guys are starting to look a little bit more loose too. I see some cars wiggling, a little bit of slides on exits now. The pressure is definitely heating up for both of these guys.
Yes, absolutely. As these laps tick down, the length of time that it takes to, or the length of time you have to actually pass the car in front of you decreases, desperation increases as well.
So far this season, we haven't seen too much of that, thankfully, though.
Oh, and Coley goes wide on turn 1, and Eric makes the pass. He's got to make it stick through 2, though. Oh, and he almost goes off the track. They both almost collide, but Eric got a much better exit. He is now a second ahead of the scientist.
Those guys will need to be careful too. It looks like P8 and P9 are starting to close that gap up. They're not too far behind.
Yeah, James in the BMW is about 2 seconds behind the scientist. Douglas Mellon about 5 seconds back. So they're within closing distance here, especially if there's some contact. Oh, no! Coley spins on the exit of turn 5, and he's going to have to wait for all the other cars to pass him. That's unfortunate. Luckily, it doesn't look like there's any damage to the car, but that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that is a shame. On one of his favorite tracks, performing so well there. That's a hard one to swallow.
Yeah. Luckily, he's got his P5 from last race to sort of hang his hat on. Meanwhile, the gap between Carter and Josh has stayed roughly the same, about 4/10. Something happened to Angelo, though. He is now 5 seconds behind Lewis.
Yeah, that is a massive gap compared to just a handful of laps ago.
Yes, he actually went off on turn 2. Was able to keep it out of the wall, but that is a very fast corner that you take in 4th gear, and having to come to an almost stop to go down that straight is a brutal time loss.
And we do have a new we have a new fastest lap of the race with a 23 flat from Lewis. So that makes
Very nice.
Josh and Lewis with the only 23 flats so far.
Carter not too far behind with a 23-1, but these tenths add up. They matter. Josh and Carter through turn 5. Clean as always. Josh has just not been able to close this gap.
Yeah,
It's been about the same.
Yeah, he did have one close run where they were just about door to door, and since then he's really struggled to make any drawing a blank here.
Yeah, headway. Or progress, or
yeah,
he's getting close now.
Any of those words in the English language will do.
And then this is the closest we've seen them in quite some time. They are now 2 tenths with Josh on the attack going into turn 1. Thought about going on the inside. Carter takes it. Goes right on the limit of that corner. Josh is attacking. Will Carter be able to handle the pressure? So far, so good. Now into the all-important turn 4 into turn 5. Very close, almost touching, but not quite. Carter with a little bit better of an exit here, and that should keep him safe despite the draft.
The pressure is on and the intensity is increasing.
It is. We only have 2 laps to go when these guys cross the start-finish line here. So if Josh wants to make something happen, his time is running out. But a very, very nice turn 6 from Josh brings him right up to Carter's bumper. All right, 2 laps to go.
Carter looking confident as always into T1.
Absolutely. Increases the gap a little bit more. An excellent turn 2. Tracking all the way out to the curve. That was picture perfect.
And just like that, that 2/10 of a gap changes to almost an entire second. And as I say that, Carter's wide.
But,
Josh around the outside.
Oh, Carter. That's heartbreaking.
And one of us is going to have to take the fall for a commentator's curse on that one.
Yeah. Man. That was really unfortunate. And now Carter has the 7/10 gap to close with 1 lap to go, as the white flag will come out when they cross the start-finish line. Man.
This last lap will come down to just the test of nerves at this point. We've seen both of these guys make minor mistakes here, and both of them have just been nerves of steel on other laps. It's going to be a toss-up.
Josh, however, does have a comfortable lead. 0.8 of a second, 0.9 of a second coming through turn 1. And we do have the white flag. Will they be able to keep it on track when the pressure is on?
These guys are also getting very close to our back markers a lap down. If anything happens to those guys ahead of them, that might really toss up this order as well.
It is, yep. We do not have F1 blue flag rules, so they are allowed to race as hard as they want. As they come through the final turn 5 for these leaders. Very nicely done by Josh. And he is going to have to really try to mess this up if you for Carter to get him now. It's looking like the writing might be on the wall for this one.
Yeah, with a second to go and a second gap and only 3/4 to go, Josh can pretty much drive nice and smooth on a Sunday morning all the way to the finish.
And it is looking like he will do exactly that. One more turn to go. Easy does it, and that is it. Josh will win our Canadian Motorsport Park Race 2. Oh man, heartbreaking for Carter.
That is a tough one, but I guarantee these guys will continue to switch back and forth, continue to fight for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, they are extremely quick, and they are so evenly matched. And then, so you've got Lewis coming in P3, Angelo coming in P4, followed by Chris Kohler, which is, I believe, his personal best 5th place, followed by Eric.
James coming in P7, Douglas P8, the scientist making a move on Howard in turn 5 on the last lap for P9. Of course, Howard coming in P10.
Well done by all the drivers. Some very unfortunate crashes at the beginning. But yeah, overall, a little bit of fireworks at the end.
Definitely a proper way to finish. And that's going to conclude our race 2 for round 4.
Yep, so we will be off next week, and then we will be back in 2 weeks for Magello.
It's definitely going to be an exciting one. The Porsche is very strong there. A lot of our students, our drivers, really appreciate and enjoy that track, so it's going to be a nice week to come back to.
Agreed. Alrighty. Take care, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
See you guys.